up people, Multiplier here. Just been working on my latest track, Fucked by Fruit, and yeah, thought I'd give you a quick little sub-bass mixing tip. Something that, yeah, just kind of reminded me, and I've been doing it for a while now. I kind of use it kind of in parallel with using the spectrum analyzer to kind of see by eye where my sub is hitting. But yeah, the idea is you have one of these low pass filters, ideally with a steep curve on the master bus, like this EQ8 down here. And then by kind of varying the frequency, obviously while it's turned on and as the track's playing, you can kind of isolate various kind of sub-frequencies, which is really useful because it means you can kind of hear if a certain bit is too muddy, or if, say, the sub-boom in your breakdown is disproportionately loud versus, say, the bass line. And it's also just good because it means, say, if you just play the whole track through, say, just isolate and say, I don't know, 80 hertz down, you can see which sections of the track might have too much sub or might not have any sub at all for, say, 2 minutes, which is probably a bad idea. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It can be useful, say, if you want to give your drop a load of impact, you want to make sure there's no sub kind of in that last little bar before the drop. So it can be useful just to completely isolate the sub frequencies and just make sure that kind of it has the impact you want. Because you've got to bear in mind, if you're making dance music, which I assume most of you are, and you want it to be played through kind of big club systems or kind of just big kind of PA systems in general, the sub-frequencies are handled by a completely different set of speakers, and they're the speakers that shake the room. And when you're mixing through headphones, as well as you know headphones, you have to visualize and kind of imagine what the effect will be through speakers. So I do most of my mixing through headphones for a range of reasons, but that basically means that as I'm mixing, I have to be imagining what effect the kind of the music will have in a room with kind of a huge stack of kind of subs kind of at the front, kind of shaking the room, literally. So it's just kind of useful to isolate the frequencies, so you can kind of make better decisions, really, and not ignore them, because it can be quite easy to overlook what's going on down there. And yeah, even if the sub isn't kind of dominating like it is in like dubstep or electro, you still need to be checking this kind of stuff, because you still need something down there, even if it's not kind of dominating, and even if you can't really hear it. It's like the top end. In a lot of pop music or a lot of kind of non-dance music, it still has that top end and it still has those sub-frequencies. They're just quite subtle and they kind of give it a bit of backbone, and it just make the song sound kind of better, to kind of put it bluntly, even though you can't really hear them necessarily, even if you're trying to like actively listen out for them. Because especially, I mean, if the sub's down in like -30, -40 dB, you're not going to hear it in the song. You're just fundamentally not going to hear it, but you can hear the effect it has. And -40 dB, you may not be able to actually hear it, but it still has an effect. So yeah, definitely worth kind of considering that. And yeah, it's a cool little tip. Also, I've heard some producers do a similar thing on the master bus, except they have basically I'll give you an example. So let's stick one of these in as well. So yeah, you have like a shape that looks a bit like this. So it's kind of like, I think it's called a bandpass kind of shape maybe. So you can kind of literally isolate a really, really narrow range of frequencies, and literally they just start at the bottom, do some mixing and work their way up, do some more mixing and work their way up. That way you're not forgetting about any frequency ranges, and you can really hear really critically what's going on in a particular kind of frequency range. It's useful stuff. And yeah, especially with sub, don't forget to really keep your eye on the spectrum analyzer.